fresh best of 3 TvP, top right of Alcyone. That rhymed. It is Astrea, or Madrino Esports. In the bottom left, it is Spirit, who just defeated Hearthstone. Although, kind of just barely. So, not as clean as his previous wins against Hearthstone. That could be Spirit faltering a little bit more, or Hearthstone being a better player the latter half of the year. I prefer to think of the latter. Astrea, though, has actually proven to be far more consistent and the more promising, I suppose, foreign, non-Korean player. Protoss. Hearthstone is a huge fan favorite. Love watching him play. Really want every year to be the year of Hearthstone. But he kind of already got the year because his content is banger. He's had the years. Astrea has had the years as far as the regional champion goes. He has won many a North American and then America's championship, actually resulting in the Kadita server qualifiers awarding yet another qualification spot because Astrea won both winter and summer for the Americas region. So he's pretty good, and there is definitely a closer history between these two players than with Spirit and Hearthstone. So most recently, they tied up in the WTL with a 1-1. Before that, it was Spirit victory. Before that, it was twice for Astrea. Before that, it was 4 times for Spirit. Then it was Astrea. Then it was Spirit. So Spirit's got a better win record in the last, let's say, 2 years, but they really don't play all that often. Let's see here. That's 5 times this year. So, not a lot. Not a super small amount either. Astrea did try and block that Nexus, but Astrea was looking, so was able to bring down the probes to get the cancel on the block, as opposed to having to take his third. Spirit is proxying not a starport. This would be a very typical location for a starport, but instead, no, it is for a factory. Now, this could lift into the main. Believe it or not, that is done in professional games. Or you could also proxy a starport here. This would successfully cloud, I suppose, the vision and the scouting of a Protoss player if they were scouting your front, yeah, it just, like, instead of having to swap off your factory and then put it on the reactor so an adept could scout that, then it's just not scouted at all. Which I think is actually what Spirit is doing. Yep, okay then. Obviously a bigger commitment. The factory and the starport both having to lift and leave eventually is a ton of production lost. But it does mean you aren't having to swap off. So this adept that will eventually always in basically every game get a scout with a shade is clueless. Does not know what's going on here. And there was no probe scout that obviously could have tried to sneak in there. It's long past that point. So Astrea grabs a third Nexus. He's getting a Sentry, and then another Sentry, and another one. Astrea's odd, greedy opener is about to kick him in the butt. He is one of the few Protoss who will open up with a Sentry as the first unit. In fact, I think he's the only one. One of the few who will do it as a second unit. And I'm pretty sure he's the only one that does this 3 Nexus, 2 gate, nothing but Sentry opener. I don't say that very often. That's not a phrase I'm familiar with, so I'm pretty sure Astrea is the only one who does it. And what do Sentries kind of suck at? Damage dealing. Catching up to units. If they're in position, they can help with the force field. That's fantastic, but then they just tickle beam. Ticklers. I don't know, Kev. 3 Hellions going to the main base, 1 shot in the probes, and Astrea has so little to work with. Now with Warp Gate done, he's going to warp in some more powerful fighting units, but they still will have a problem actually catching up to these dastardly Hellions. Nice block it! But still, 3, they're alive, so it's 1 shot. And the 2 shot is still available, which is awfully scary. Medivac is getting low, and the Hellions might just want to go ahead and sacrifice themselves, which is exactly what's going to happen here. I'm surprised the Medivac isn't going to leave, though. No, the Medivac probably should have left and let the Hellions sacrifice themselves. Spirit realizing at the very last second, obviously in the heat of the moment, difficult to decide, but c'est la vie. Instead of the Medivac surviving and the Hellion dying, it's the Hellion that's alive. Factory and Starport did give up as soon as the Hellion and Medivac was produced, so there was no attempt to follow up with a Liberator, which actually might have been quite cheeky. Or, Widowmine drop or something like that. Is going to get those back at home to try and build up to the next phase of Terran production, which is the 311 Bio Widowmines Medivacs. So was that enough damage is now the question. 15 probes seems devastating if you're talking about a sub 5-minute PVT. where presumably the Protoss is still building their third. But because it was one of the fastest thirds you can grab in StarCraft 2, realistically anyway, Astrea's third is done and back to building up probes pretty freaking quickly. So this is one of those weird situations where the faster you got something, so, you know, kind of the greedier you were, the more damage you can take. The only reason I'm saying kind of greedy is that it is greedy, but if you don't take the direct damage, if you only take harassment damage, it's kind of safe in a way. Basically, if you're not facing someone who's all-inning you, two-base tank pushing you or something, the harassment might be able to be made up for by its greed, you know? Like, so greed is the right word. It's just, it's this kind of complicated scenario where suddenly 15 probe kills isn't what it used to be. Colossus number 1 is out. The shield battery will be done in kind of the mid-positioning, defending both the natural and the third, and I really think actually Astrea is fine, because he's not on a composition that needs to have a 12-worker lead or something. As long as he's got good army positioning, which the force fields will help out here. There you go. Whoa! Well, did they work out enough? Yep, they did actually. Overcharge saves that Colossus, and this is the medevacless push that caught Harsum off guard, but not so on Astrea. Now, Spirit was really probably hoping not only for Astrea to be out of position and unaware of the attack, number 1, which it wasn't, the observer was right there, but number 2, might have also been hoping that the Hellion damage earlier on was enough to make this just a simple matter of hitting the strike, you know? The pins were lined up, just bowl the freaking ball. And that is absolutely not the case. He came away with not even a spare. He basically got a gutter ball right there. Astrea is such an interesting player, isn't he? Spirit's not done, of course. Not going to tap out just because it wasn't the easiest game of his life. He's on 3 bases himself. He is on no engineering base. Oh, he still has yet to get an upgrade, so that's a little sour then. +1 attack on a finish for Astrea. And Spirit's not going to have any upgrades. I think he meant to get +1 attack. Ooh, that's really awkward. Ooh. Getting +1 armor first is not what a Terran player does. Well, Blink is on the way as well as +2. We also have a Dark Shrine, some cannons to help out against drops, and Astrea, despite being down in supply, I think is looking really, really solid. This is probably the most solid 3-base setup Protoss will have at minute 8. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but the point is, it's really good. Coast Academy's on the way for Spirit. I don't think he is thinking of a mid-game victory. He's looking towards a more maxed-out fight. Finally grabs that +1 attack, but it is now lopsided, so that's unfortunate. It's going to be wanting to get to that 180, 200 supply and then push in with Ghosts, Bio, Medivacs, Vikings, maybe then moving into Liberators into the late game of TvP as he was playing versus Harsum. And Harsum got into, I guess, a similar position. Definitely not the same build. One of mine's going to pop off. Oh, that kills with entry. No. But the Nexus will be gotten. Spirit's already ahead of the 4th base, though. He's also getting his space on location. And it's going to be no problem. No Zealots I can see coming across the map. Astrea does have a Dark Shrine, but this does seem to be kind of just getting set up for the later stage. Oh, no. Here's the Warp Prism. My bad. Warp Prism with speed, by the way. That's what the DTs are being used for. So, funnily enough, they will not be heading towards the 4th to get a quick cancel, but they might be heading towards the 3rd and the main. Ooh, the combination here with Spirit having no idea the technology is even available could be devastating. Ooh, the natural also going to be an attack. He splits the DTs 3 ways. Ooh, it's spicy. One is caught immediately, though. Misses her at the front. It's a nice move there from Spirit. Can also help out against a couple of 2 cheeky observers. 10 SCVs do go down. That's not too bad. The 4th base is going to finish in a second here, so 10 SCVs is not bad at all. It's more that Spirit is just guaranteed to be now back at home. It's also something he has to worry about for the future, so yeah, Bunker Missile Turret definitely the play here. But that could have struck at a even harsher timing, as a Spirit was about to press the sim button on top of the Protoss army. And it maybe could have done more damage, but as it is, it's a solid entry into the mid to late game, I guess. Oh, please do not Feder on the Zalaga. It's so awkward here. How many Vikings do we have? 7 is an okay number. The Blink is done. Stalker's ready to guard the Colossus. Disruptor's also available. One almost getting shot down. Second one tries to save his buddy. No! Wouldn't mind drop into the 4th base as well. Cannon is not covering the actual probes, but nice eyes there from Astrea. Just gonna build a cannon to appropriately defend that. A couple of force fields go down to buy time. No reason for Astrea to take the fight if he doesn't have to. Because actually his supply was looking a little lackluster if he did end up taking the engagement. His upgrades, though, not lackluster. At 2-1, working on 3-2. Spirit only once again starting up his armor because of that +1 attack awkwardness on the timing. So usually you would start both, but +1 attack probably finished a little bit later, and so he has to do stuff and then get back to engineering bay production. So continues to be awkward on that front for our Terran, but 5th base is on the way for him, and he is maxed out. He is gunning for a fight, and he just scanned a potential opportunity. Astrea, not realizing that that's about to be hits, is in some trouble. Disruptors are, one way to try and stop them from entering in here to a concave, or to the bases, but a concave is still really scary at this particular point. Words are hard. Disruptors are running out of shots, and some units in the natural are doing damage, but not a tremendous amount. Medivacs are out of juice, and actually that will be the sign for Spirit to disengage. Astrea taking that as calmly as possible, only losing a handful of probes in the process. One disruptor also got shut down, I believe. Spirit continuing to add on command centers. He's got +1 ship weapons finishing up. The fusion core is now done, and he could be moving on to Liberators very, very soon. In fact, he should be. Astrea is setting up some run-bys. He's even got maybe a proxy gateway in mind with this probe on the front. Wouldn't mind cheeky cheek. Can't actually reach that mineral line. Just kidding. Cannons aplenty. Cannons are the answer to everything. No missile turrets in the main base seems to be the one thing that Spirit has forgotten to get, because honestly this is heading into a game where most Terrans would have missile turrets at this point. You're not saving the minerals as you perfect your first 8 minutes of your build. You're on almost 5 bases at this point, so a couple of missile turrets from your 1,000 mineral bank might not. Okay. He is the better player, and he doesn't want missile turrets. He's a strong, independent Terran. 3-2 finished up for Astrea. Only 2-1 for Spirit, and not on the attack upgrade, so I should say 1-2. Don't want to be taking that fight. Astrea refusing to be baited out into an open position. Has gotten up to his own 5th base on the gold with some static defense, just going for a couple of Zealot run-bys. Warp Prism drops in the main. Warp Prism being cleared out now by a Viking, so it's going to go for its last hurrah. And the Zealots will work. That's annoying. Most importantly for Spirit, he should not overreact to this. He has already divvied up his army half offensively, half defensively, so to further divvy up his army could be complicated. Astrea does not realize this, however, so his full army is now paying attention to the front lines. He's about to have to do a recall. Disruptors not being paid attention to, EMP'd and sniped immediately anyway. And the recall is a question mark, honestly. Astrea is going to go for a bit of a base trade here. He's already gotten a couple of cancels, killed the planetary, and is now looking to take on the army potentially. As it is, again, only half of the Terran army. And things are getting screwy as another base dies. Recall will come through in the natural, which means that Spirit heading over to the right side is a good idea, but so many Zealots had reinforced that particular area. Astrea was totally prepared for that potential exit path and will save his other 2 bases. The 3rd Nexus, the only thing that was destroyed there, is not that bad. And a couple of disruptors, but that's really not that bad. Spirit ended up losing 2 command centers. So the planetary and 1 command center ended up dying. The other one was canceled at the very least. But regardless, that's a favorable trade for Astrea, who still has the upgrades. He's got 3-2 versus 2-2. No Liberators in play yet for the +2 ship weapons, but the Vikings still benefiting from that. Good number of disruptors means that Spirit's going to be microing all over the place, and this would be an excellent time to also remember the Caduceus reactor. It increases the medevac regen of their energy, which is pretty good when you're stimming all the time. But I actually think while some other Terrans have picked up on this and get it fairly quickly, like still late game, kind of certainly after your 3-3 is done, sure. I don't think Spirit has really done so much of that. Did I hear a nuke? I absolutely did. That nuke just hit the natural and killed all of the pylons. So the production has been stalled out, including a +3 armor. So actually upgrades completely even right now. Disruptors flying out every which way, and the army is trying to stim and focus fire as well. Focus firing is no longer working, but guess what? Liberators are on the front line, so just safely tuck yourself behind those bad girls and then kill the Nexus. No problem, easy peasy. Probe's gonna go down, Sag defense gonna go down, Nexus gonna go down, and Astrea is in a whole lot of trouble. Without that map control against someone with Liberators, you are in a lot of trouble. Eventually, you might just have to go for the base trade if you can't get this done. The Stalkers on the left are not having a super great time, but the main fight is coming over on the right side. Disruptors getting EMP'd, but still getting their shots out to nothing. The Terran bio army on the ground just simply evacuated. Let the Liberators do the job. More probes going down as well to a ghost. This guy's gotten 8 kills. Finally going to get cleared up. But Spirit has, I believe, drove a wedge into Astrea's defense. A couple of carriers are out now. As he was mindful of the eventual Liberator transition. But I'm not sure he got there fast enough, and I'm not sure carriers are what he wants right here, right now. There aren't a lot of Marines on the mix, so the Interceptors might be enough, but it's honestly a question. They all have to actually come out of the carrier. They'd all be alive, and then they're good at killing the Liberators. That's currently the problem. That said, Spirit's army is getting awfully weak. He's seen so many times, and there weren't any medevac reinforcements. And that Astrea is dangerously close to winning this battle because of Interceptors. Finally going to be able to push through, but the Liberators are still adding so much damage. More Disruptors going down. The Colossus now in the Marauder's sights, just barely, going to be taken down. The shield battery wasn't in range or wasn't focusing on it. 34 probes have gone down in total. This Nexus is going to try to be saved because, hell, Astrea really needs it. And somehow, it is going to survive. Spirit's little reinforcement tag team was not enough to get the kill, and now it's going to be gunned down. That's 5 Marauders dead. That's kind of expensive, even for Spirit, who does have a more solid economy. Looks like he also had a bit of delay on his mining. I'm not sure why. And the SCV is only just transferring over to the 4th. It's still 5 bases, though, now that they have, with mules to drop, and plenty of reinforcements for Spirit. Things have evened up a lot. Once again, a similar scenario to our last game of the Spirit Hearthstone series, where that lack of anti-air and the lack of health as well made it so that the carriers kind of did the trick, kind of. I mean, considering their cost, could it have been better to put into something else? You could always argue that, I guess, but frankly, the end of the fight becoming injured Marauders against the leftovers of Protoss army meant that the Terran did eventually trade out in a similar way. Initially, it was great for them, and then it was, still good, but not as good as they were hoping. Stalkers eagerly want to blink on that. No, they do grab the medevac drop. Taking that thorn out of your side is nice. Observer is detected in the middle of the map, but at least he got sight on the army move out. Once again, a nuke is on the way. That was tricky in the natural, but eventually the upgrade's finished. The robos got repowered, and we do have 3-3 versus 3-3. Protoss also having their +1 shields and their own +2 air. It's just that doesn't change any kill shots like the Liberator does. The Nexus on the left is finally going to go down. That had to be sacrificed. I'm not even sure he can defend it at this point in time. Now that the army is around, just save the probes while you can. Things are getting really scrappy for Astrea. Spirit had his own moment of low bank, I suppose you could say. Oh, that's a lot of wasted zealots. Oh, that's so many wasted zealots. But he had that consistent economy. Astrea did not. Those zealots were kind of almost not quite a Hail Mary, but they were absolutely meant to go across the map and buy a lot of time. Now, the only reason Astrea could even take a fight, I want to say, is because the Disruptors might have something to say, but that's like the only reason. There's also, again, a lot of stims coming in. The carriers are taking down the Vikings, and now it's up to the Marines on the ground, but that should be enough. They're just so injured. More reinforcements coming in, including more Vikings. Another nuke onto the 3rd base of Astrea that he might not be paying attention to. A little cloud of units. Again, 3 Marauders, couple of Marines kill the gold base by looks of things, and that nuke is not being paid attention to. That nuke is going to deliver the probe kills. Woo! 8 more probes go down. At this point, Spirit is just dismantling Astrea's defense. Astrea was on the cusp of repositioning, of rebuilding to a point that it was contentious again. He was almost there. When he had 5 bases still up, it was like, well, you might be able to do it. 5 bases almost maxed out. With even upgrades, there's a chance. But I think that he still ended up losing too many battles which ways, and still was outmined, of course, and really wasn't in the position to be as aggressive as he was. There's certainly something to be said about making sure you don't just reveal how feeble you are. And taking opportunities when you find them, but that might not have been it. This is certainly not going to be it, but this is more of a numbers game than anything else. 100 supply lead. Good focus fire on the Disruptors, and that is it. Astrea will indeed lose the first game of this series after 20 minutes. Whew, Spirit's getting a lot of TvP practice today. In the bottom right of Oceanborn, down a game, it is Matcherino's Astrea. In the top left, it is Navi's Spirit. Yes, the CSGO, Dota, etc. Navi team now has a StarCraft player. In fact, Astrea made this game close after 15 probes, so a mine drop. You mean the Hellion drop? It was an interesting start to the last game. It is hard to judge exactly how that favored players, I guess. But I do truly believe, my opinion is that Astrea's loss of probes to the Hellion drop in the early game was fine, actually, because of his really fast third base. And that was only further encouraged, my opinion, because he so well handled the follow-up push. It was obliteration of Spirit's attempt to gain control over the game, kind of permanently. It was the good old Liberator transition that really seemed to stick it to Astrea, who, by the way, is now scouting Spirit's kind of cheeky proxy sort of position. Yeah, definitely worth sending the second SCV out. Yeah, a little awkward for Spirit. Yeah, once Astrea had gotten liberated before he had a solid air army, that was kind of the writing on the wall. Otherwise, there is a lot of what-ifs about the engagements. So the kind of proxy Reaper is going to happen. And that bunker will probably get up just because Spirit will fancy footwork micro the SCV. He even has to. This is a very fortunate position. Doesn't even have to. Even as SCV finally moves over, the probes realize that they're not going to be able to stop this. So they just get out of the Reaper's way to ensure their survival. Having just barely placed down the shield battery before being able to escape into the mineral line where its buddies will hopefully help out until the Stalker pops. And it is going to be a Stalker first because you knew the bunker was going to happen. Unfortunately, this probe did not survive. It tried to hide itself in the closet, the first place the murderer looked. I'm gonna say, probes don't usually come along with this, but kind of like it. Just that little bit of extra DPS to help counter the SCV repair is kind of cute. And these are the probes that are going to transfer to the natural anyway. So you'll see a lot of Protosses just stack them in the main, because even though it's not efficient mining, it is still technically more. It just stops being efficient for every extra probe after 16. And then also they guarantee they don't lose them in the natural. But the pullback on the shield battery was cute. So 2 probes go down in total. Technically, could have done without any probe losses. I'm just saying, Astrea, get freaking good. Just kidding. So for Spirit, that was less effective than his opener versus Hearthstone, but kind of around the same amount. And I think most importantly, he did get to do that. If he had been forced to give up his barracks at 70% finished, like that is so awkward for a Terran. So awkward. But he got it up, he sent it back, and now he's gone to his 3-1. Which, Astrea, with his particular openers, I wonder if he would be weak to a tank push from here. Nope, not if he's gonna go charge. Never mind. I was thinking, you know, if he's gonna go into his... So he went into his Sentry. He's gonna get a Scout, which means that he could have also kind of changed the dynamic if he had to. If he was going for Blink and he saw the setup, he might have been worried about a tank push. But again, there's no tech lob in the factory. This is always... It's like the most obvious reason why it wouldn't be, and I'm just forgetting it. So yeah, he's going to see that it's not in any way an aggressive move. Starport, again, the timing you pay attention to. And the Phoenix is a great job. Way to go, Hallucination. But say it were. just what if? He's facing Dolan, who does these tank pushes all the time. If he was going into Blink, for instance, he might have changed over into Charge. But this is a whole nother theory crafting discussion. It's going to be Charge. Good old Mass Gateway is on the menu today. But Charge coming out first and foremost. That means you got a lot of direct fighting power, but in terms of, yes, dealing with drops and multi-pronged attacks, you'd be a little bit weaker. You also don't really have map control like you would in the beginning of a Blink Stalker opener. But that only lasts so long. Once Sim finishes, it's not control so much as it is scouting. And then they're not necessarily the best upfront fighters. But Charge first could even actually scare Spirit's first attack. Spirit's all, just doing his thing, skipping across the field of flowers, thinking that I'm going to get my first push going because I'm the Terran. And I get to do the push. And then, boom, a billion charge lots. That does not do so well. But I think if Spirit picks up on this, which there's no reason he would, he has no idea what's going on. He doesn't even know it's Twilight Council. Then defending is usually pretty easy. Getting your SimCity up against charge lots is a-okay. But he does not know what's going down here. He's about to let a medevacless army run up a ramp. Oh god, oh jeez, oh lord, baby Jesus. The force was a little off. Nonetheless, he can still chase after. And another stim is going to hurt this army so much. Astrea finding the moment to pounce because Spirit just had no idea what was going on. Spirit really started to play this out like a quote-unquote normal TvP when it was a little bit different. But that bunker still being up is a godsend, and he is able to pull the SCVs. So many shots from the Zealots wasted on that bunker as it ultimately gets repaired back up. And the last second survival is strong for Spirit, who kind of gets his drop going too, I guess, technically. Typical 2 probes. What? And now, as things calm down, we do have to really try and take everything together and digest it. And right now, I would say that the situation is a familiar one when someone is so based on charge lots. If they do not transfer over into either a super supreme economy, so a fast fourth base and skimping on the gases and just literally mass charge lots, then they have to move on into technology. And so Spirit, it's now up to him to get scouting, which he was missing earlier on. He's going to need to get scouting again just to see if his opponent is moving on or not. This is a little bit tricky. A medevac drop wants to come into the natural. I believe it saw the lack of gases in the natural still. So that's the trickiness to it. Spirit actually might think that it's still mostly charge lots. I mean, it's still very based on it, but there is a potential for Colossus if Astrea is able to survive this particular SCV pull. Woo! Well, that might still be fast enough of an attack. Oh, Jesus, medevac almost died. To work, an SCV pull against a gateway abuser is a really powerful maneuver. Astrea taking this as seriously as possible, obviously, trying to build up shield batteries at the third base, trying to chrono out that Colossus. One Colossus will do a world of good. Any amount of splash is so freaking helpful against the SCVs, but then so are 5 shield batteries. Hello? And +2 armor actually being done. Overcharge keeping these Zealots alive for decades to come. They are not dying. And unfortunately, Spirit's SCV pull is not going to be the winning moments that he was hoping for. Oh god, that +2 armor plus an overcharge on all those shield batteries, that was the never-ending army. Good lord. 9 probes went down somewhere, I think in the natural, but that did not make up for Spirit's loss of the SCV pool. And there's not even a hope for a secondary pool, to be honest. I think Spirit is just playing it out to say that he played it out. Because without killing any of the Zealots, none of the stack defense, none of the economy, basically, and not killing the Colossus and knowing a second one will probably pop up pretty soon, the stew that is currently being made is one that only Astrea likes. As he comes in on the backside with charge lots, it does make things a little awkward for his stalkers, but not awkward enough. GG. Now into game 3, onto Site Delta. In the top left, it is Astrea. In the bottom right, it is Spirit. Really, if you are thinking in terms of theory, SCV pool can be of a rock to scissors of a gateway-based composition. It should be very strong against it, but it obviously depends on how the rest of the game has gone and how much the Protoss has to time to defend. Perhaps also how quickly they moved on from charge lots, because if you're thinking it's charge lots and suddenly 3 Colossus, it's a little awkward. But in that case, I would say it's more on time to defend. Astrea was able to figure out that it was an SCV pool pretty quickly, so if you only had 1 shield battery, that's very snipeable. So there's no shield battery and there's no overcharge. Then the Zealots are still pretty effective thanks to their +2 having finished. That's still really important. But it's definitely more questionable. It's definitely more like, well, the SCVs die, but there's so much bio left over. Do the warp-ins run in, you know, without the critical mass? You know, everything combined together made that the easiest defense, so it looked like a SCV pool was a stupid idea. It's usually not. It's usually okay. Astrea continues to confound and confuzzle with his unique play styles. He doesn't always play these super unique build orders, but he does seem to be practicing with them more in the past couple of months, perhaps since the patch, actually. Or maybe the new maps, I'm not sure. He could always bring out a very typical Phoenix charge, Phoenix Colossus, like a Harsum or Showtime. He could bring out a more typical, I would say, charge lot build than one we just saw. But it's so hard to determine. So tied up now 1-1, and we still have the other matches underway. So all the TvPs that are happening are apparently all bangers. I've always been a fan of TvP, but it's been my favorite matchup for probably 3 years at this point, and it feels like it did just get better. And that could 100% be because of the Raven change. It gives the early mid-game power to the Protoss, or even, shall we say, let's just admit it, the interference matrix was very... it was too much to consider. So even if it didn't end the game right then and there, it was so much to consider for the Protoss. An uneven consideration, IMO. But it also could be the new maps, and it also could be some of the other patch changes, but as I've said many times, if the patch was just with the new maps and the Raven interference matrix change, I already would have been pretty happy with that patch. Instead, they went in and did a bunch of other shit, whatever, but... yeah, it seems to have just gotten better. Astrea Spirit, Flem Skillus, and Beyond Max Packs are all the matches today. Handling opener from Spirits, non-proxied. For Astrea, he is going into a fast third Nexus. Now, basically, the in-meta, I suppose, Nexus, if you're going for a fast Nexus style, so basically Mass Gateway, is like 330. That's kind of considered the fastest that you could safely get in both PvZ and PvT. Astrea is getting it at like 230. It is finishing close to 330. It gets crazy fast. There's got to be a weakness, and it looks like maybe finally the weakness has been found. But yet again, keep in mind that a certain amount of probes will not be enough when the economy has been so greedily set up from the Protoss. So yeah, it's brilliant that Spirit's early game managed to overpower the Sentry because, well, Astrea just wasn't expecting the attack, otherwise he could have force-fielded. But 11 probes, much like the first game of this series, might not be enough to make up for Astrea's absurdly fast Nexus. Like, it is so fast. There's been metas where it's been, like, super fast, and there's metas where it's been 330 is the common one. There's been metas where, obviously, it's much later because they're 2-base Colossus or whatever. But, Jesus. Should come with a warning for anyone who tries to copy Astrea's style. Wood of Mind drop is going to be successfully defended. Actually, only so far getting 1 probe. It's going to get a Stalker, too, now, though. And a second probe. Huh. Thanks, Roddy, for the 72 months. Barrick coming down now for Spirit as he's on 2 bases, moving on to Stim and Combat Shields. Actually might be reducing some tanks, or he might just be swapping off. We'll see. He has not been very tank-heavy this game. And if it is going to be another charge lot game, then 100% do not be tank-heavy. But that is not what we have here today. And Spirit did get that scout. He saw the Robo and a complete lack of Twilight Council, so he will know that the intention is to get to Colossus, which tanks would be great against. So I would love if he produced tanks, and that's exactly what he's doing with that Tech Lab. Natural Widow Mine? Jeez. Astrea just barely pulling in time. Still a bothersome amount of probes and lost modding time that I would say is compounding with the earlier probe losses. This is now, it's like a big pinprick and now into little tiny ones that are suppressing Astrea, where in that first game, it was a big attack, I guess. It was 15 probes in the first 5 minutes, but then nothing else happened for a while. And Astrea probably dumped all of his chrono into his probe production. This is a little different. And I think fairly important as well. Very, very annoying, despite this not even being with an armory. Consistent harassment from Spirit is, I think, ensuring that his earlier probe kills are really affecting this game. Astrea has not been able to go, oh, well, that happened. Let's just try and move on and take some risks. He needs to still consider damage being taken. He has successfully moved over into Colossus. He's got shield batteries at every base and still certainly capable of defending against Spirit's push, but the continuous Widow Mine drops and delayed mining, plus now a tank push against the Colossus, I think this is the real way to have potentially ended that first game. Faster. It did end in Spirit's favor, but it would have ended faster, perhaps if Spirit had done this. It's also Site Delta, which also is a lot more common for tanks from the Terran side. Interestingly enough, breaking open these rocks is not going to gun forward into the third base, but perhaps preempt the fourth being taken from Astrea, and he's gotten it pretty quickly, hoping to get away with it. This time around, Astrea was not able to grab as quick as a +1 attack, and Spirit did remember his, which is quite important. Another thing that was a mistake in the first game. And now he has set up his tanks to, yes, block out a fourth if that was Astrea's attention, but also to block out a little bit of the reinforcement potential concave. Medevac drop finally gets cleaned up, by the way. But that is no longer the biggest worry. 2 Colossus available, 1 on each base. Spirit does need to C-chop forward. Can't blitz on top of any one of these armies, but he is rallying across the map. Third tank coming in. Meanwhile, getting his third on location. Now he is going to gun for it on top of that third base, but not going to work out. We even had Astrea smartly hold position. Spirit smartly decide that wasn't the play and then focus on microing too. Kind of a proper response from both players. Astrea definitely on the back foot. He's on the ropes. And if the tanks start to take down his Robo, he will be in so much trouble. Charge is on the way, and it's a fairly fast upgrade, but it doesn't feel very fast when you're under pressure. You would love to have that, as well as be able to build some Zealots on the back line. Recalling some probes, that's neat. He's oversaturated in the main. That's actually very neat. Oh, jeez. Spirit almost not paying attention. Now that Robo is going to go down. No second Disruptor here, no third Colossus. Shield battery still intact. Couple of gateways in the main too, so the loss of this one's not going to be devastating. Charge still on the way. Only 40% done. Dark Shrine coming in too. I do like that, but how much time does Astrea really have here? Spirit's once again going to gun after that third base. Nice force field, nice shield battery, but no overcharge. Perhaps because one isn't necessary. There we go. Now coming with the overcharge, and actually Astrea's going to try and break this. The tank's mostly focusing on the natural. Do not end up killing as much as you would expect. A lot of the Stalkers still live. Both Colossus still live. The lone Disruptor still lives. And I thought Spirit had a beautiful position, especially with the upgrade lead, and Astrea broke that almost calmly. All before Charge was done, too, and I think Charge would have been the real kicker. Charge would have been the complicating factor, getting on top of the tanks and making the tanks free fire every which way. And he didn't need that, apparently. At the end of the day, I do want to look at that again, like a replay analysis, but I'm going to kind of blame the Terran. I think gunning after the third ended up killing his higher potential. Perhaps he just continued C-chopping into the natural. I'm not sure, though. Like, it is difficult to tell. There's a certain amount of choking that you do, right, with tanks, and then you kind of reach this abrupt stop, and you're like, well, now what do I do? Like, what do I gun for? What do I go after? But alright, so Spirits now dealing with some DT harassment. Thought they might also have to be used on the defense one at a time. Nope. Just go across the map, deal some damage. 5 SCVs go down. Not too shabby. 4th base on the way in the vertical position for Astrea, as Spirit now has split his army. It is being mindfully watched by the Observer, though. Does Astrea have anything in the main? No. I think he knows. He's just kind of trapping it. He wants it to drop in and then trap it, I think. More DTs. Nope, more Zealots going into the 3rd. Astrea spotting out everything on the map so far well enough. Middle of the map also now taken care of. No shield battery available. It's a little scary, but charge is there, even upgrades, and a good amount of units, basically, all together. If Spirit clumps up his army, 100% of the Terran versus 50% of the Protoss, that would have been different. But now they both recognize, as the Observers detect the Terran's army movement, that it's going to be a full-on slugfest. Time to go. Equal upgrades, but tanks not going to be sieged for this one. EMPs do come down, but the Stalkers still trying their best to hold on for the Colossus. Now the Charge Lots come in to do their duty, but Astrea's Stalkers are starting to get ripped apart. The Charge Lots were not in high enough numbers, and the Colossus are not actually getting the kills that they needed to do. Astrea taking a fight away from a shield battery, ends up causing him the game. Costing even. But maybe he would have been overrun regardless. He needed that 4th base, and to defend both 3rd and 4th would have been extraordinarily difficult. GG. Spirit didn't win it with the first tank push, but he won it with kind of the second, and he will be moving on in this Open Cup